guess there we go. We'll see if this works. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen now, and hopefully you can all see the presentation. Welcome to our very first annual Summer Camp Information Night. Before we start, I'd like to read our land acknowledgement. If this is an acknowledgement that we worked very hard as a staff to come up with, taking from various sources, but it's a bit long, but it's because it means a lot to us. It is an essential act of accountability for us to acknowledge that the land on which Quiet Heart operates is the ancestral territories of the Squamish people, people of the clear salt water, the Snohomish, the lowland people, the Stillaguamish, people of the river, the Skykomish, the upriver people, Tulalip, and the Snoqualmie, people of the moon. This land was ceded under threat of violence with the Treaty of Point Elliott in 1855. These tribal peoples are the original caretakers of this land, which we all love and learn from, and we give our thanks to their ancestors for their wisdom and stewardship. Through the pain and displacement of colonization, these tribal peoples continue today to live on and protect the land and water of their ancestors for the benefit of future generations. We give our admiration for their vibrant communities who live in harmony with this land and whose traditional practices of fishing, hunting, gathering, canoe building, weaving, and more inspire Quiet Heart's teachings. It is our greatest aspiration that those who read and hear this statement are both inspired to learn about these tribes' rich cultural histories and present resiliency work, and also engage in the work of understanding and mitigating the lasting impacts of colonial occupation on real people alive today. I really wanted to share that tonight. As you can imagine, we don't get a chance to read that in its entirety all the time because it's a bit long, but I wanted to share that with you because it definitely is kind of embodies a lot of what Quiet Heart is. Whoops. There we go. Our mission statement. At Quiet Heart, we facilitate the connections between people and place, developing our ties to the past, the present, and the future. Through building awareness and practicing traditional skills and knowledge, we empower our students to be lifelong stewards of the land. We work to build a community of individuals with confidence, empathy, and resilience who respect themselves, others, and the natural world. We worked really hard on that mission statement too. We do this through our educational philosophy, which is a really key component. Our instructors present hands-on experiences and ideas for students to expand their knowledge of the natural world, while also creating space to explore individual interests. Every student brings their own story and strengths to our program, and we value each individual's learning journey. Through inquiry and exploration, we challenge our students to think critically, access their inner wisdom, and build empathy and respect for our world. We encourage our students to embrace their edges and create a positive environment for them to challenge themselves and grow. And what does that mean in practice? Kind of all this. It means that we want our kids to create some nature connections and we want them to try new things. It means that they're going to get close to nature and they're going to learn a whole bunch of things. They're probably going to get a little frustrated in the process. If we see our bottom right picture here, those three students are working on friction fire with a bow drill. And I don't know if anybody's ever tried that before, but it is not easy at all. And they're doing it as a team. But that's a little bit of what Quiet Heart is. We're going to push kids' edges. So what we do, nature connection is our key here. Nature connection is what we do most. And we do that through skills, knowledge, and just time spent outside. The 3 R's, if you've been with Quiet Heart before, the 3 R's are really the way we run our programs. They're the rules, but it's also kind of throughout Quiet Heart. These are the rules for our camps. And every single camp, this will be introduced from our 4-year-olds to our teenagers. obviously in different developmentally appropriate ways. The 3 R's are respect for yourself, respect for each other, and respect for this place. And I always tell kids we only have 3 rules, and we get away with only having 3 because they're really, really big. And we talk about what these mean and how we're going to exhibit those. And we revisit this every day. One thing that's really important about Quiet Heart is we have student and nature-centered learning. Our instructors definitely have plans and intentions for the day, but they are willing to throw those out the window. If a student is really focused on something and is really excited and engaged, or if nature presents something. One of my favorite stories is we had an after-school program and it was only 2 hours. And so for a 2-hour program, you really have to have your ducks in a row because it goes by really fast. And the instructor was ready to go, and we marched all the kids out into a field, and lo and behold, there's a dead bird in the field. And it was left there by a predator. And so everything went out the window, because when nature presents you with a dead bird, you take advantage of that. And that's kind of what we do. And so we do have plans, but it's very difficult to tell you exactly what your child will be doing this summer, because it really depends on the group and depends on what nature brings us. We do have a lot of community building activities through anything from fire building or navigation or shelter building or free play. We do a lot of community building, but we also allow for independent exploration, independent projects. We really like to find a fine balance between building that community, but also allowing for individuals to pursue their own interests. Land stewardship is a big component of our program. And we try to teach kids not just do the action, but give them all the knowledge behind that as well. This one's a big one, especially for new parents. We allow for students to learn boundaries and assess risk through activities like playing with sticks, climbing trees, learning to carve, building fire, etc. This one's really important. I have a parent of 2 children, and my daughter went to a summer camp once, and she wasn't allowed to run because they were afraid the children would fall and hurt themselves. We do not subscribe to that philosophy. We are going to allow your children to run. We're going to allow them to run through the woods. And there are going to be things that they're going to have to navigate. And we're going to teach them how to be more aware. We're going to help guide them through that process, but we're also going to allow it to happen. We need the students to be able to assess risk on their own, because that is an incredibly important skill as they grow older. As the mom of teenagers now, I can tell you that's a very important skill as they grow older. We are going to help children work on the edges of their comfort zone. We're going to nudge those edges. We have a lot of fun at Quiet Heart, but one thing I want to emphasize is we let them know that it's okay to be uncomfortable, and they probably will be uncomfortable at some point during our program, whether that's physically uncomfortable because we're outside in some sort of heat or cold or rain or wet, whether that's uncomfortable because they're trying something new, whether it's uncomfortable because they're unsure about new knowledge. It's okay to be uncomfortable and to work through that. And we can work through that. We can teach them how to work through that together. We also have a lot of fun. There's a lot of games played, a lot. Oops. Oops. What we don't do, we don't go inside almost ever. I would say there's only a few instances where we might go inside. If that was an extreme weather, and actually one of our parks, we don't have that option to go inside, but 2 of them at the Coyote Camp at Edmonds Unitarian Universalist Congregation, we might go inside in the most extreme weather inside the congregation building, just to be safe. And in Yost Park, we have 2 locations. The Cascade Swim Club has said that if there was any sort of extreme lightning or something, we could go inside their building for safety. And also my own home is actually at the end. And we have had people have to, one group once sheltered underneath my deck for a hailstorm. We work with it. And we'll talk about extreme weather. We do have a policy and things like that, and I'll talk about that in a little bit. We do not live by a schedule or pay attention to time, really. Parents always ask me, well, when is lunchtime? Because that's when I'll pick them up. And I say, I have no idea. It really depends on the kids. I could tell you in general when lunchtime might be, but our philosophy is when we're hungry, we eat. That's part of that respect for yourself. When you're thirsty, you drink. When you're hungry, you eat. When you have to go to the bathroom, we go to the bathroom. That's taking care of yourself. And so we're not going to put a distinct time on any of that. We're also going to try to get your kids away from that as well. And you'll see in a little bit, I'm going to ask you to leave watches behind. We do not shield kids from all natural hazards. You can see two of ours climbing a tree there. It's okay. We're going to have them climb a tree. And we do not provide a risk-free environment. We call it a healthy risk. We're teaching our kids to make healthy risks. We want them to try to cross a log. We want them to, investigate things. We are going to, I always say, I always say our tagline should be, we give fire and knives to children. But we do. We want them to learn how to use these things. I spent a little bit of time living in Norway, and I put something on Facebook the other day about one of our programs. And one of my neighbors there, her son just graduated from Barnehage, which is like a kindergarten daycare program. And at age 5, they gave every single kid a pocket knife. So I think that just kind of illustrates that kids are able, and in different cultures, they are taking those risks. And we're going to help them to take healthy risks. We do not give 5-year-olds pocket knives, however. We cannot provide the specialized care necessary for students with significant behavioral needs. This is a tricky one. Sometimes people come to us thinking we're a wilderness therapy program. We are not. We are not trained. Some of our instructors actually are trained in that, but we as a staff are not. We get all sorts of kids. We get neurodivergent children. We get children that are having work with mental health challenges. We get all sorts of kids. And as our mission statement says, we honor every single one of those journeys. There are certain things, though, that this program might not be right. A biggie is we need to have everybody stay together, especially at the little ones. If we have a runner, we might have a problem. We can't keep all the kids safe if they can't agree to stay together. And honestly, that doesn't come into play very often. And we work with kids and families to find issues. If a camper is we're worried about their personal safety or the safety of others mentally and physically, we will work with those students and we will work with the family. But at some point, we may decide that it is not this may not be the right place for them at this time. We've had several students try and then come back again and several summers later. And the last one is, we will not keep your children clean. For sure, we're not going to keep them clean. If you see our friend in the bottom there, he really had a great time in the mud that day. And we're not going to keep them clean. And I just bring some towels for the back of your car if you're concerned. There we go. So here's our camp parks and locations. We have Yost Park. Is where, if you see, we have 2 drop-off times. And I really like parents to know this, but especially parents that have been with us before, they kind of assume everything's the same. It's not. In order to stagger drop-offs to make it easier, we have some camps, Explorer Camp, Forest Camp, and Wild Foragers, start at 8:30 and end at 3. Fairy Sports, Magical Stones, Summer in the Woods, and Ninja Foxes go from 9 to 3:30. Essentially, if Little Bear is one of your instructors, you're going from 9 till 3:30. The drop-off point is at the northwest end of the parking lot. This is new. We did it last summer. It'll be new for anybody who has been with us before in previous summers. The picture is there. It might be confusing. It's not really. The parking lot's not that big. You'll see us. Just drive in and start driving around and you'll see us, I promise. And the pickup right now is still in front of the pool building. Cascade Swim Club is operating the pool this summer, and we're still kind of communicating, and I want to make sure that we're not overlapping too much. If so, we might end up picking up at the same place we drop off. We'll just see what happens there. Pine Ridge Park, we only have one program in Pine Ridge Park. If your child is in Pine Ridge Park, please look at this address and look at it carefully. Please do not put Pine Ridge Park into your Google Maps or your other map functions. There are several other entrances to the park which do not have parking lots. And this has confused parents for several years now. This is the main entrance to the park. It's off of 83rd Avenue. And I would suggest you put that address into your phone instead of just Googling Pine Ridge Park, because that might send you to the other side of the park. Little Chipmunks is from 10 to 2, and you'll see they wear our orange t-shirts because we want to find them because they're ages 4 to 6. We do not want them to blend into their environment too much. We have 6 sessions of Pine Ridge Park this summer, and there is our drop-off and pickup spot. There's a gate across the way. Again, it's a very small parking lot. You'll see us. This is new for some people. This is where we have our camps that build fires, because we can't build fires in city parks. Coyote Camp is at the Edmonds Unitarian Universalist Congregation. It's on 224th Street. Again, if you just put that address into your map function, it'll take you there. One thing I do want to let you know is when you come in, you're going to go behind the building, and there'll be signs. It'll be pretty obvious. There's not much in front of the building. You're going to go behind the building to the main parking, and we're in the back right corner there. That's the picture from today. It will look a lot different when you're dropping off kids because they'll be all set up and ready for a program. But the porta potty is there, so that will be a helpful target. Those camps go from 9 till 3:30. In some of the other camps, they may accept kids before 9. At the Coyote Camp, they will not accept kids before 9 o'clock because they don't have that much time. And these particular camps have a lot of prep work and materials for them. Primitive skills, teen survival skills, Stone Age experience, and wild women. Also to note in this camp, the congregation hosts women who are camping in their cars. And so we just want to make sure that we respect their space, and they stay to one side of the parking lot, and we respect their space. So we're going to park closer to our end of the parking lot, and we're also going to drive slowly through the parking lot. I forgot to say, I'll take tons of questions at the end. I'm just kind of blowing through this, and then I'll take questions at the end, mostly because I can't see all of you right now because of my screen. Here's a typical camp day, although it's hard to say what a typical camp day is, but there's certain things that always happen. You check in with your instructor. You will be initialing on your check-in. Last year, everybody had their own packet. We're not doing that anymore, which is really wonderful because that was a lot of extra paper. It's going to be one clipboard for everyone, but when you initial in your students, you are initialing all of those that they have not been exposed, and if they have, we're taking precautions, all of that, no symptoms. It's basically your COVID attestation when you're signing in the morning on the group sign-in sheet. While that's happening, there'll probably be a game or another activity going on. After we start, our groups always start with a morning circle, which involves Thanksgiving, and we all say what we're thankful for that particular day. That's one of my favorite things because you can kind of tell how their morning has been. And after that, we do a sit spot. If you're not familiar with sit spot, it is we send our kids into the woods and they have a spot all by themselves. And they spend some time there. The idea is to notice things, to calm your mind, to become interested in things that you see. We've had kids see some pretty amazing things. Last year, oftentimes we send the kids with some bird seed. And last year, there was one student who in particular would put his bird seed out and then move away. And he basically made friends with the squirrel, and he was there, and the squirrel would come every single time to his sit spot to eat his little bird seed. So that was a unique situation, but it was really fun. The kids think they are all by themselves. We're always watching them. So we know where your kids are when they're off by themselves in the woods. Then we come back, we always have an activity of the day. That activity could be physically making something. It could be learning something about the forest. It could be a variety of different things. After that, there'll be some independent work time, possibly a second activity, possibly playtime. There's always a game at the end. We always end with a game, unless kids are so into their projects that they say they don't want a game, which happens sometimes. And we always end the day with a closing reflection circle. If you notice in there, you don't see lunch or snack, because that'll happen sometime in there. Typically, it's after the activity of the day is introduced. But like we said, when we're hungry, we eat. So sometimes lunch is at 11. Sometimes the kids are so into it, we have to say, oh my gosh, guys, we got to eat some lunch. It's, so supplies. We recommend clothing that blend into the environment. It's great for if we're trying to create nature connections, not to stand out from nature. It's also great for our games for stealth. Please don't forget that we do not live in a warm place. The summertime, we really need some layers. I always tell kids, this isn't recess. And kids will say, well, I go out at recess all the time. I wear shorts in the wintertime. At recess, you're running around the entire time for an hour, and then you go back inside, probably less than an hour. We're not doing that. There are going to be times when you're just sitting and you're outside the whole day. So you need to make sure you're comfortable. Rain gear, layers. Our kids should have their own backpack that they are responsible, even our 4 to 6 year olds. We've been doing this for a while, and they typically don't have a problem with their backpacks. Their backpacks, I do not recommend the string backpacks, because they're going to be holding it all day. Well, not all day. I mean, they're going to put it down when they go to different places, but those are irritating after a while, but some kids love them. So your backpack should be large enough to be able to carry a full water bottle and your healthy lunch and snack, in addition to any layers or things that you want. Please don't send a grocery sack, even those cloth grocery sacks. That's think about if you were hiking in the forest, you wouldn't want to hike with a bag all day. We want kids to be able to use their hands. For your water bottle, please make sure it's large enough for the day. Sometimes kids come with these itty bitty water bottles and they can drink them in, 2 sips. And we do have the ability, we carry around water to refill them, but it becomes a burden if we have to refill your kid's water bottle 10 times during the day. We will to keep them safe, but we request that your bottle is large enough for them to have. Obviously for the little kids, if they're carrying their backpacks, we don't want them to have a huge water bottle. That's gonna be too heavy for them. But it's just something enough that we can refill it maybe once, maybe twice, and then we're good. For lunch, a healthy snack. We like to stay away from sugary treats. We're telling you that, but we've had a lot of conversations at staff about how we deal with food and kids' relationships with food. So basically, once it comes, they can eat it. So if you send your kid with a peanut butter and fluff sandwich, they can eat it. It's not going to be great for them, and it's not going to give them the the energy they need. I don't know if peanut butter and fluff sandwiches, I grew up in Massachusetts and that was a thing there. I don't know if that's a thing here, but basically it's marshmallow and peanut butter. And those, we're wanting to give them enough energy to sustain them. And we will talk to kids if they try to bring out their treat first. We'll ask them, you know, your body needs some fuel. We'll explain it to them and ask them to eat something a little bit more substantial before that, but we're not going to shame anyone into not eating the special treat that they may have brought. But please just keep an eye on that. A lunch full of sugar isn't going to do your kid any favors in the woods. Camps at Coyote Camp will have the opportunity to cook over a campfire. If they get to build the campfire, they have to build it. That's the tricky part. We do have a shared grill. So if you do have any food concerns, make sure your instructor knows that. And we are able to help them construct their own grilling apparatus other than the shared grill, if that's something that's concerned. Stone Age experience, however, no metal is allowed, so the grill will not come out. Every student will have to create their own cooking apparatus in that one. Some camps, we ask students may want to bring a fixed blade carving knife. If you are in one of those camps, Summer in the Woods, Ninja Foxes, Wild Foragers, Primitive Skills, Teen Survival, and Wild Women, in your information sheet, we gave a recommendation. We recommend the Mora knives, the companion series, 4.1-inch blade. I don't recommend folding knives as much because what they're going to be doing with them is folding knives aren't great for that. They're going to be billeting wood and things like that. Also, we've had some kids come with like learning knives that are very dull. A dull knife is very dangerous, far more dangerous than a sharp knife because of the pressure and the way you use it. We do not recommend, I think it was Swiss Army makes like it's almost like a dull knife. We don't recommend those. If you have knife questions, please let me know. If you are in a different camp besides one of these, please do not bring your pocket knife. Your student will not be able to use it during the day and will not be allowed to. As a matter of fact, we may hold it for them for the day. Journals and pencils. Some kids are journalers and they love it. Some camps will be making their own journals, but some kids like to bring their own. Sunscreen and hat, that's me crossing my fingers that we finally get some sunshine. And a face mask, optional. I wanted to let everybody know about our face mask policy. It's basically, it goes along with those 3 R's. We respect each other. Our policies follow the Washington Department of Health and their guidelines that they've given us. Because we are outside all the time, we are not currently requiring masks unless you have been exposed, and there's a lot of rules after that. And if you have questions, you can ask me about that. If you have tested positive and there's a certain amount of days, if you're dealing in any sort of school situation, you know what I'm talking about. I would, however, bring a face mask because what if there is a emergency and we need to go inside a building? If you would feel more comfortable with your child wearing a mask inside a building, make sure you stuff one in their bag. Chances are we're never going to use it, but I would put it. Some people ask me whether kids can wear face masks and whether there'll be a stigma. I will tell you firsthand, because this spring is the first time we have not required masks, and it hasn't been an issue. Some kids wear masks, some kids don't. Some instructors wear masks, some don't. It's depending on people's, where people are at. And some people wear masks one week, but not the other week, depending on what's going on around them. We really value respect and respecting each other. And it hasn't been an issue at all. The kids haven't even noticed. I think that they're just so used to it now, they don't even say anything. Logistics. Bathroom runs are needed throughout the day. However, it's in a porta potty. If your child has never independently used a porta potty themselves, I would highly recommend you do some practicing before you come to Quiet Heart, especially our little ones. We're more than happy to help within reason. And we make sure that we are being safe in every way. But, especially our little ones, sometimes they have a hard time if they're wearing rain pants or something. We help them out. But make sure your child is familiar with the porta potty if that's going to be a new experience for them. If you're late or absent, please text or call one of your instructors. We wait around for you. So it's best of us to know if sometimes we wait around for people only to find out they're not coming. Please let them know. And the phone numbers for your instructors should be in your camp information sheet. I also advise putting those into your contacts. We've been calling parents for, for example, like a bee sting or something where we really need to get a hold of parents, and they've ignored our calls because they think it's a spam. So please put your instructors' numbers in your phone so you know to kind of pick up on those. Arrange any early pickup with instructors in the morning. Be prepared to meet the group in the park. We cannot always bring the kids out to the parking lot. Sometimes we can, most of the time we can, but we can't always guarantee that we can. Also, please keep late drop-offs, early pickups, absences to a minimum. I know things happen. I mean, doctor's appointments are scheduled 6 months in advance and you can't do anything about it. I get it. We all get it and try to be flexible, but it really does disrupt the group and the community when we have all these constant comings and goings. And if the instructor has to explain something over and over and over again because he's just finished and now someone else has come, that sort of thing. If the best rule is if you can't avoid it, please do. Please leave watches and cell phones at home or let the instructor know your student has them. And this one has been a challenging one for some kids. Basically, we want them to have the opportunity to not worry about what's next. We want them to have the opportunity to just be there and to see what happens and to see what comes. So many instructors, not every instructor, some instructors are stricter about this than others, will say, no, watches off. Cell phones definitely do not come out at camp because when we can't take pictures. Sometimes people have asked me to take pictures, and I tell them they can take pictures of something that they have made or something, but not other students, because the other students don't know who or who doesn't have a photo permission, things like that. We don't do that. If this is, there are always specific circumstances, and if there are, talk to us. One thing I really want to get across about Quiet Heart is that we are small, we are flexible, and are built upon respect. I would say no rule is hard and fast. We thrive on talking to each other, communicating. I try to be completely transparent, sometimes too much. I love to talk. And so we really want to make sure parents know, just communicate with us, work with us. We'll be happy to work with you too. On the first day, your child is going to get a t-shirt. It is going to be in the size indicated on their registration. Sometimes kids need to change sizes. I get that. Sometimes we have parents that inputted a size 3 years ago and haven't changed it. I need to let you know that I don't like to keep a lot of t-shirt inventory because we're small. And I will let you know the t-shirts are kept at my house, so I don't have a lot of space. So I do have some extras that we can trade out if we need to. It's not that big of a deal, but please check that size in their registration. And you can do that by, if you receive an email from me, clicking on any of the things to get you back to Sawyer, you can go through your child's registration just to make sure that's updated. That helps me out a lot. We're almost done, I promise, 2 more slides. Extreme weather. In the event of heat, thunder and lightning, air quality and heat have been the biggest ones for us. Thunder and lightning we can typically work around, and there's not that much around here. We will notify you by 7 a.m. of the program day if the program needs to be altered or canceled, by email to the primary and secondary email on file with Sawyer. So that's, again, in your child's registration, you have the opportunity to give a primary email, and that's your logon, and your secondary email. If you want both parents to be receiving messages, or grandma and grandpa, whatever, you need to put that in there. We really only have the space for 2 emails. And chances are, like I said, I like to be fully transparent, so I'll probably email you the night before and say, hey, heads up, check your email in the morning. We use EPA's AirNow air quality app, and that's the picture of it. And you can get that app easily from the App Store. It's from the EPA. And we use those predictions. If the prediction is to be unhealthy for sensitive groups, we will still hold programs, but we will adjust our activities to make them less physically intense. And in that case, some families have decided to keep their kids home, and we understand that. If it is unhealthy, predicted to be unhealthy, the red zone or anything above that, obviously, we will cancel programs for the day. When we do have to cancel, unfortunately, there are no refunds available, and we aren't able to make up during the summer because it's just one camp right after the other. However, I want to say that this is something special with Quiet Heart. Because we are a small program and we thrive on communication, and we are able to be flexible. So some larger programs, for example, like you'll see the City of Edmonds or the YMCA, they'll just cancel every single program outright. And I understand why they do that. They're a very bigger organization. They have people that they need to make a decision. There are times where we may try a day with an option to call for an early pickup, because we don't want to have your kid miss a day of camp. And if we think that it's going to stay in that unhealthy for sensitive, we may try it. This did happen once last year. We went through because it was predicted to stay for unhealth in that orange level, and about midday, some areas were starting to see red. And so 2 of our camps, we ended up calling for an early pickup that day because we just felt we could see the kids were being affected, and we said, nope, we're not keeping our kids out in this. 2 of them, however, were in locations and were doing things that the instructor said, no, we don't see any difference from the day before, things are okay. And the kids were fine that day, and so we kept them. So this is kind of a policy we're trying out. We're trying to be flexible, mostly because we know you paid money for camp and your kids want camp, and we want to give you camp. So we're doing the best we can with this. And obviously we're going to work through this and see how it works. If you do not have the option to pick your kid up early, please keep them home for the day if it's in this case. And we'll let you know when this is a potential situation. I think the other option is just us canceling the whole day. So at least my feeling is at least we're gonna give it a try. If you don't wanna do that, you keep your kid home for the day, and that's totally fine. The last slide is advice from the instructors. I asked them, because this is the first time we've ever done this. I said, okay, what advice would you give? And so here's some advice. Spending time in nature has so many benefits. Unleashing creativity, grow a deeper understanding. One of our instructors said, prepare for dirty kids. That particular instructor has been with us since he was young. And I will tell you that he was probably one of our dirtiest. So if possible, please allow the clothing you provide your kids with to be appropriate in regards to weather. And you can tell this is an issue for us in the summer. We get a lot of time kids show up in shorts and a t-shirt, and it's in the 50s and they're cold, and we're trying to keep them warm and keep them moving, but there's only so much we can do, Sunscreen and lots of water. That helps out later in the week, especially, and a full night of sleep. That very much helps. We're moving through the park. And also, I will say you're welcome, because when you pick them up, I say they are tired and dirty, which means they're going to be nice and chill for you in the afternoon, hopefully. So I think that's our last slide. Thank you for that, for listening to me jabber on for so long. I'm sick of hearing my voice, but I'm happy to answer questions. I see we have something in the chat. It says, will this supply list be emailed to parents closer to the camp date? So you have all actually received the supply list, apart from one person who registered today. They have not received their supply list. If you didn't get it, check your spam folder. I email through Sawyer. So sometimes it goes to spam. If you still can't find me, email me and I'll send it out. And I'll let you know kind of I think it's info at Sawyer or something. That's what the address is. So you can put that into your contacts so it won't go to spam. I have another question. How early can we drop off the kids? Good question. Not super early, maximum 15 minutes before camp. And even that, some instructors, we have to know that our instructors are meeting and they're trying to meet and use that time the best of their abilities to design a program for your kids. So sometimes they're ready to go and they're ready to take kids 15 minutes before. But sometimes, especially those Coyote Camp, so primitive skills, Stone Age experience, wild women, teen survival skills, they will often not accept children before 9 o'clock just because of all the work that goes into the program. So we can't drop them off any earlier than that. Let's see. Are kids allowed to pee in the woods? Let's see. How do I answer this in a way? I mean, yes. We call it a tree pee, and there are times when your kids will need to pee in the woods. We teach them how to do that in an appropriate manner. We do not try to encourage that as often. We are in a public park, but we do recognize that we are working with children whose bladders may not be able to hold it until we walk all the way back to the porta potty sometimes. So we do the best we can. The best email address to use for additional questions would be info@quietheart.org. And I believe that was on the camp yes, it's on the camp information sheet. I want everybody to know right now, I am the only admin. That's it, it's just me. So when you're emailing me. Starting next week, I'm so excited. I have hired an additional admin for this summer, so I won't be alone for the first time in 3 years. So at that point, it might be myself or Nick responding back to you. But for right now, it's just me. So sometimes it takes me a little bit to get there, especially because June is kind of crazy. For the 4 to 6-year-olds, if they need to use the restroom, we do take them to the restroom. If they have trouble unfastening articles of clothing, we do help them with that. And we will make sure that they feel comfortable. They do need to independently be able to use the toilet and to be able to take care of all sort of wiping needs and all of that. However, we understand sometimes, especially if you're putting them in layers, it's hard to get in and out of those layers. We understand and we will work with that, but we are not going to be doing anything more than, helping them feel comfortable in the bathroom and then helping them, with fasteners and things like that. I highly recommend if you have a little kid that has not used a porta potty, start now. Just try and use a porta potty together and make sure that they feel comfortable doing that. Luckily, our 4 to 6-year-olds are out for 4 hours, so it's not as urgent, but still. What do you do with the waiver? Great. You can, I do have some people that are emailing me. That's fine. Or you can just keep it. There's also always waivers available because I know I was always the mom that never remembered to bring the waiver on the first day ever. So I always think that there's going to be more people like me. So I always have waivers available the first day. You only need one waiver for the whole year. And actually, you can have one waiver per family. Just put all your kids on the same waiver and it's good to go. You only have to do one. Do we have any other questions? Don't think we do. If you do have any more questions, I'm happy to answer more questions. As you can tell, big fan of talking. So I'm happy to talk with you on the phone or at camp or, at the grocery store. You can always tell where I am because it says Quiet Heart Wilderness School on the back of my car. So I have to be a very good driver, but everybody always knows where I am. So, yeah, great. I hope we answered all of your questions. We're really excited for camp this year. We are full, full, full. Actually, that's not true. We have 2 spots left in Wild Women. So if you know any teenage girls, um, there you go. All right, friends, thank you so much. I'm hoping that you have a good night. I'm going to stop